Hello. Welcome to this P6QA tool webinar, and thank you for joining us. Just a little bit of housekeeping before I get started. Um, your mics are going to be muted during the presentation. However, uh, if you would like at any time, feel free to type your questions into the chat, which is located on the left-hand side of your screen on that little toolbar over there. So there is a chat area there. If you would just like to put your questions into that little chat area, then we can answer them as the presentation goes along or at the end. My name is Sue Hopkins, and I am based in the United States. And I am an implementation specialist for Emerald Associates, and I have quite a few years of project and cost business administration experience. I've worked on several different types of projects as well as many different industries in my career. So I am now concentrating on Primavera. When you're running many projects and very large projects, it's not easy to be sure that you really have a good schedule. Well, that is a very high dollar question. What is a good schedule? And what is quality? Um, so let's just take a little bit of a poll here, the first, before we get started too far along. And I'm just going to put it up on your screen there. And if you could just answer the question, go ahead and click which one you currently do. We're just asking, how do you schedule? How do you check your schedule quality currently, where you work or as you are creating and running schedules? So, okay. Just give a second or two for some other answers just to come in. All right, so it looks like we've got maybe about half and half doing it manually, and some that are using a schedule quality tool other than P6QA. So with that being about 50-50 there, um, that's just good to know. I'm glad that we do have some that are going to be that are actually checking their schedule quality at this point, and hopefully, as we go through this, you're going to see some of the value in checking schedule quality on your projects. So, when we have a quality schedule, it helps in a number of ways. First of all, people have a better understanding of what is expected of them. It helps get new schedulers up to speed quickly and effectively when they come either into your program brand new, or maybe they're just new schedulers in general. It helps build trust in a schedule. So we need to have standard ways of doing things so that every time you look at a project or you're giving it a project to a project team or to your management, they are getting exactly what they need to see. We want to make sure that people's time in Primavera is effective building a good schedule. Sometimes people overshoot the level of detail that is really appropriate in a schedule, thinking they're building this really great schedule. And then when it gets passed on, it isn't what management really wants to see. So we want our schedulers to understand what we consider a good schedule corporately, so they don't get frustrated because they're doing their best and just not producing what is satisfying management. So a good schedule is a schedule where you can plan and predict what is going to be in that schedule. So when you're looking at a quality schedule, um, what types of things might you want to be looking at? To different organizations, this can mean different things. To some, it means finishing your project on time. For others, it means, how are we going to manage our resources best? Are we going to be managing our costs efficiently and effectively? In some cases, all of those things are important when we're talking about a quality schedule. But it's important to understand not everyone has the same requirements from a schedule. What's important is that all of the people in your organization follow those same standards. So, one person may have a 300 activity schedule and another a 3,000 activity schedule for the same thing. You need to produce reliability and consistency across the board with your schedules. So, is a good schedule is where you can plan and predict those times, the timing of it, scheduled resources, the costs. All of those things need to be reliable and consistent, especially say you're going to go find a task somewhere and then it's there because it's consistent with what you've done before and what you'll do in the future for that matter. Then you need to be able to model your own corporate business processes. There are certain business processes that need to be followed in most organizations. More frequently, we're hearing from our clients that they want to take information out of Primavera and put it into a corporate dashboard of some sort, or maybe some corporate reporting. It's all about getting things in alignment in Primavera. So when that information is pulled out, it's going to work with other systems. This means standard coding structures, WBS, and UDFs. All of those things are important so those schedules can be extracted and compared. So, say for instance, you need to make sure that your AFE is approved before you know it's actually being carried out, and those standards are may also be in your naming conventions or perhaps in your coding. However that is, it needs to make sure that you have that business process followed so that you are consistent. Another challenge that we find is review bottlenecks in getting quality schedules checked out. There may be only one or two people in an organization that can really effectively review schedules. If you have 400 schedulers and 150 schedules a year, all being reviewed by one or two people, it's really hard to know how well or how poorly you're doing as a scheduler. Because, maybe you don't ever hear any feedback from these schedule reviewers. They're busy. They really don't have the time to give you that kind of quality feedback that you need. So this isn't really going to help you as a scheduler to do a good job and improve your schedules. So there's a bottleneck with that one or two people who all have great knowledge, but really not the time to share it. So, what ends up happening in a lot of these cases is the company hires expensive third party reviewers who come in and make some suggestions. Then, maybe 6 months later, another reviewer comes in, but they make different suggestions. This can really frustrate your schedulers. They're doing what the first reviewer has suggested and they think they're really doing a great job. But then the second reviewer comes in and they make a different suggestion. Um, so you really want to be, again, consistent with those suggestions and not spend money on those expensive reviews that are not giving you a lot of value. So benefits of a properly aligned schedule are key. P6QA tells the scheduler right in the system where they have problems, and they can fix them quickly and effectively without having someone come in and tell them what they're doing wrong. Um, I have the system set up according to what the company needs, and it's coaching me the whole time. So really nice to have it right in there in P6 to help you along. Now, I want to do another poll here really quickly, and just if you could mark, please. Uh, do you use standard QA methodology? So we have a few places that we can get standards from. There's DCMA 14, there's PMI, Project Management Institute, GAO, which is the Government Accountability Office. And then, of course, sometimes you just are going by what your internal group has decided. So if you could just give me an answer on those, and we can just kind of see where everybody is, and then we can kind of talk about uh, where everybody's coming from and how they are actually getting those schedules quality checked. So it looks like we have several people doing a PMI type of check, and the majority of us of you are actually using just some internal quality checks that are actually out there and are being used. In fact, as I have more people voting, that one is growing more so. So it looks like the majority of our attendees today are just using some internal checks that they follow as they are going through their quality checks for their schedules. So, just before we get into, how everything works and all that, um, let's just, kind of check out what we're looking for and how things are being checked with P6QA. So, we have your standard checks that are out there. The logic. Is there logic missing? Is there appropriate logic? Um, are are there start to finish relationships? We find that these are so rare that these are some of the things that people look for first. So why not make it easier to point those out? Are there leads? Are there lags? Some organizations have policies against leads, for example. So you want to be able to check that. Are durations appropriate for the schedule you're trying to work with? If your project is a year long, you probably shouldn't have any activities that are 6 months long. So that's something that you want to be able to easily see. We have multiple parts to P6QA. We have client-specific validations. We have business processes. We have schedule quality validations from all kinds of different organizations, their recommendations. And we have some statistics that are available out there for QA. You might want to be looking for some constraints. Do you have hard or soft constraints? And how many of those do you have? You don't really want to have your project so heavily constrained that the logic doesn't work as it should. Um, are there costs that are missing from your resources? You want to be sure that things are being updated completely and effectively. We don't want to end up with a situation where we have out of sequence work, or we have activities that are marked completed before they're ever even started. Maybe you're breaking your constraints in the schedule. You want to be able to see that even as you're updating and working through your schedule. You want to flag those activities so your schedulers can fix them very quickly. So there are a number of industry standards that people talk about. The DCMA 14-point standard, of course, that's pretty well known. We have the Government Accountability Office, or GAO. These are government standards that are out there. There's also industry standards. such as the AACE, which is the Association for Advancement of Cost Engineering, and of course, your PMI um, standards. All these organizations have standards as to what you should be looking for in a quality schedule. P6QA actually supports all of these. So you can actually decide which ones are important to you and which ones aren't. So you can tailor make these type of quality standards to fit your company. For a lot of people, they have their own internal business processes that they need to follow. For example, maybe you have a certain set of codes that you require on a project, or a certain set of UDFs or codes that you need to put on an activity. Maybe you have a certain set of resource codes or rates for those resources. Um, are you using expense categories, maybe cost accounts, things of that nature? P6 gives you the ability to define your own business processes so you can take information out of P6 and use it in other corporate applications. You may have all of those different standards for different types of projects also. Say, for instance, you have CapEx or OpEx, and maybe you're doing shutdowns and turnarounds, all as part of your portfolio of projects. Well, you don't always have the same standards for each types of those projects. We allow you to define different standards in each project. So you can custom tailor these to meet the type of project that you have. Also, different project types, you may have different standards in in the length of how the projects are going. For instance, IT are very, very short uh, duration type of projects that move quickly. Those standards might be different from your long range planning standards that, of course, are going to have some different pieces that you may want to check that aren't going to be appropriate for, let's say, an IT type of project. You want to be sure from proposal to approval through execution and then to completion that you have your different criteria that may be important to you. As projects get moving and work is being done on them, you are going to be wanting to check a lot of different things as it goes along. Things that aren't necessarily important right at the beginning of a project when you're just planning it. So, we're going to take a quick look on how it works, and then we're going to hop into the live part of the demonstration. So, P6QA is really fairly simple with how it is run. Essentially, you input the validation criteria. Um, there are defaults that are put into P6QA, but and on a project by project basis, you can also change those type of defaults to whatever needs you have for an individual project. Once those are done, you're going to run your analysis. That analysis is going to automatically give you your results. You can see where your problems are and you can fix those problems. Then you can rerun the analysis, see how you've done. And to take things a little bit further, you can even snapshot the progress that you're making as you're going along with these schedules. And then you could produce some really nice reports from those snapshotting points and do some trending and some things of that nature. So with that, let's just take a look at the tool itself. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're we should be able to see my screen here, which is in P6. This is the client version of P6. One great thing is that, as I mentioned before, P6QA is run right within your Primavera P6 tool. And it doesn't matter whether you're running it in client or whether you're running it in the web version. Today, we are going to be looking at client, but you can also do this in your web version if that's where you do the majority of your work. So there's different validations, as I said, that can be done depending on, where you are with your project and what type of project you're dealing with. So right here, I have actually highlighted in with the blue line here. I'm working on a project, and I've been going through and putting in, all the things I need for the activities and resources and relationships, logic, things like that. And as I'm going, I am running P6QA. So you can see here that I have a last run date here. This is going to tell me when the last time P6QA was run on this particular project. I also have a flag that says whether it's that we're going to actively be running this particular project in QA um, as we go. So I can see that I have my current project set to yes. So I am able to run that. You can see down here on some of these other projects where I have a frequency that I had set at one point. And what this is going to do is it's going to essentially tell P6QA that you want to run this particular project at a certain interval. And that interval can be weekly, monthly, daily, and it's just a matter of clicking in, and let me drag this over to where you can see it, and selecting what your frequency is on your particular runs. So you don't have to necessarily go in and manually do it every time. You can set it up to run on a regular basis. Now, in my case, I've already run it, and I have this particular project open and ready to take a look at. So right now, I have some schedule quality checks that are important to my organization, and you can see that I'm doing well on some with the green check marks, and I'm not doing so well on others with that you can see very easily with the red. Now, in conjunction with P6QA, when it runs and sets these flags, we also are producing some notebooks so that you can get some definite, more detailed information. So I'm just going to open up the schedule quality notebook for this particular project. And I can see that I have a summary of all the checks that I am running at this point. And you can see very easily red and green on what's passing and what's failing. Now, as you go along down and scroll to the bottom, I have some more concentrated information, some more granular information about each one of the checks. So I'm just going to talk to this first one here. I have an open ends check that I am doing. And so I can easily see, what kind of UDFs and what kind of indicators I have associated with this. I can see how my project right now is measuring up. It's red, so I'm not doing so well. It's telling me that pretty easily, and it's telling me that 12.5% of my activities are not complying with this particular check. So if we were to talk about 100, 12.5 of my activities out of 100 are not doing well with open ends. Then down here below, I have a little chart that is telling me which activities are not compliant with the check that is above here. So I can see that I've got 4 activities that have either a predecessor or a successor missing on them. Now, not only do I have this report or this notebook that's telling me my schedule checks, I also can navigate into my activities. So I have this project open, and if I go into my activities, I can also see activity by activity how each one of them is measuring up to the check associated with it. Um, in in this case, I am right now working on my logic. So I was looking at those open ends a minute ago in the notebook. So I can see by some of the different colors and things that I have coming down here that I have some logic missing. Well, I'm not really concerned about the logic that is okay. So I have actually created a filter. So I'm going to go ahead and go down to my filter here. And I am going to look for my logic missing. And I'm only going to filter out the ones that are not compliant. So now I filter down to my 2 finished milestones and 2 other tasks down here that are missing either a predecessor or a successor or both. So I look at my finished milestone and I know that it's a finished milestone. It's not going to have a successor. So what I can do to help as I'm going along and building my schedule so that I don't see this over and over and think I've got something wrong every time, I can actually click into this indicator here and change it to a blue star. What this does is it indicates to P6QA that I have looked at this particular check. I've determined that it is not something I need to be concerned about, and so I can mark it so. I'm going to do the same thing with my start milestone. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, on this other one, let's say I'm going to go into my there we go, into this activity, and I see that I don't have a predecessor. So I'm actually going to assign a predecessor, and I'm just going to make it this 105 here. Oh, maybe I'm not. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to make it 100. And I added it twice. So I'm going to take one of those out of there. I don't want a finish to finish on that, but I do want a finish to start. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go and I'm going to see how this has changed my schedule, my quality check on logic missing specifically. So I can go back into my projects area and I can go in and run this manually by removing my last run date. So I'm just going to delete that out of there, and it's going to go out and it's going to indicate to P6QA to pick up this project and to actually do another quality check on it based on the changes I've made. Now, while I'm doing that, let's just take a look at some of the business quality checks that we have available. So I'm going to open up a different layout that's showing us some of those business quality checks here. It's taking a second for that. There we go, to apply. So as I look at this, I can see that I have some business quality checks. I'm checking an activity ID format. I'm looking for duplicate names on my activities. I'm looking for fixed duration in units. The majority of my activities I've determined need to be fixed duration in units, and so I want to flag those ones that are not fixed duration in units. I have some mandatory codes that I'm actually checking for. And I've also got some cost accounts and some resources, primary resource and roles. So I can pick and choose which ones I actually want to run on each one of my projects. So I believe if we refresh here, I'm going to find that my P6QA is done running. And I can tell that because I now have a last run date populated again after I blanked it out. So it's telling me that it ran today at 6:28 at that time. So if I can go over to my activities, I would find that I have some of those updated too. Um, I'm but what I'm going to do actually is go in and look at my notebook again. Now in my notebook, I can see that before I had uh, read all the way down or all the way across on my logic open ends. So what I'm finding here is that I have actuals. Well, let me try that again. I have actuals here of 3. So I have 3 activities that have an open end. However, I've put 2 blue stars out there, indicating that I have 2 that are okay, that I don't need to look at anymore. So it's giving me a remaining amount of 1 activity that still needs to have some attention drawn to it and that I need to go and check out. It's also giving me a percentage. So I have my actual percentage. So my 3 out of 32 is telling me that 9.38% of my activities are out of compliance. However, with my adjusted amount, I am in compliance now. I have 3.12%. Now, if you notice, I have a target here. And when I look at that target, this is telling me what my tolerance is for this project for open ends. So essentially 5% is what it's telling me right now. So 5 out of 100 of my activities I will accept with an open end. Probably not realistic. We probably want less than that depending on how many activities we have. So in this case, we only have 32. So that's down. That's lower. Now, the way that I can indicate these and the way that I can actually define these is opening another layout is I have the ability to actually go out and set up my criteria for each of these checks. So, in the case of my logic missing, I can see it's right here. This is where I have my 5% set. And you can see I've got it set for all of my projects within this particular uh, project manager here. Now, under Adam Ant, he has a 0 tolerance on his 2 projects. So you can see that we can set these separately depending on the project, the type, or what phase it's in, or what have you. Now, on some of these checks, we need to have several pieces of information. So let's say on my high duration, I have a tolerance of 5% on some of these projects and 25% on some other ones. Now, I also need to tell P6QA what I consider a high duration. And you'll see that this is done in hours. And so I've defined that 1,480 hours is considered a high duration for me on these projects or on these particular projects here. So this is how you would define each one of your tolerances and what you define as a number of, say, for instance, what a high duration is considered. Now, I can do the same thing with my uh, business processes. So I've got my business process criteria here, and I can see that I have a 10% tolerance on my activity ID format. So, but the majority of my activities are going to be following the format pattern that I have defined here. I also have a tolerance for duplicate names, mandatory codes, and then on some, we have actually some ranges that you can define. So I have for my project last scheduled, I have a range. I have a yellow range as well as a red range. And what I've set are the number of days that are going to be since my project last scheduled. So from 0 up to 14, I'm going to get a green indicator saying that I am fine with the time since my project has last scheduled. Between 14 And 31, I am actually going to get a yellow indicator saying, okay, you've gone a little bit long on this, on scheduling this project. You need to take a look at this. It's probably time to schedule. Now, when it gets past 31 days, it's going to turn red. And it's going to be basically yelling at me and telling me, "Hey, it's time to schedule this project. It's way behind, and you need to do something about that." So you can see all the different things that can be set depending on what is um, a quality schedule for your particular company. Now, this is all great for when we are doing our projects, and you're building them. Well, what about those ones that are in flight and you've started progress on them? You're probably going to be looking at a few different things as you are updating your projects. So I'm just going to put on some of those things that can be looked at and analyzed as you are progressing your project. So I can see down here, I have a project that I've imported. It's come from a contractor. I've imported it, and there are some things I want to check out after I've imported it. So I'm going to run QA on it. I've set some different tolerances because this is an in-flight project. And I've also gotten another progress update here that I want to run a brand new one on. I haven't run one yet, and so I want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want to make this a QA project, and P6QA is going to come around and it's going to say, okay, I want to check this out the next time I'm running through. So in the meantime, let's just take a look at my first progress report or first progress uh, from my contractor. So I can see that for the most part, things were really good there. Well, let me go back. They went really good. However, looks like I've got some negative float that I want to take a look at. So I'm going to go into my activities here. And again, I'm going to change a layout so that we can look at just what we were analyzing. And here I can see that, activity by activity, how things are measuring up. And here is where I start to have some issues with my negative float. I have some items that are 4 days behind. I've got 2 days behind, and then I can easily see as I go down how each one of these activities is doing. So essentially, I probably would want to go back to my contractor at this point and tell them, hey, you've got some negative float. We need to find out why, what's going on here, etc. So really easy for me to see immediately once I import this project and run QA on it, what is measuring up and what is not. Now let's go back into our project screen and let's see how our second progress update is faring. It's just run for me there. So now I can see that I've got a few more issues going on. Looks like the negative float's taken care of. That's positive. However, now it looks like I've got some actual durations that are greater than um, my baseline original durations. I've also got some activities that finished late. Uh, I've also got some resources that are missing some actuals, and I've got actual dates that are greater than my data date. So I've got some issues here. So let's open this up and see which activities are actually going to be uh, causing those red flags to appear. So now that I've gone in and opened up that project, I can see that it's probably started right here with this one activity. I have the actual duration is 1 day longer than what was in the plan, uh, which of course made our activity finished late, and so that is also flagged red. But I've also got a resource over budget. Yeah, that makes sense because if they did one more day and a day extra, then I'm over on that one. But it looks like I also have some issues on this in progress activity where I have progress on it, but I don't have any actuals for that resource. And so these are things that are easily seen so that I can go in, I can determine what has gone on and fix them and get my project back on track and maybe question if need be, go back to the person who provided that progress update to me. So as you can see, essentially it's really easy to find some of the things that you are more commonly going to look for as you are looking at your quality schedules. I'm just going to show one more layout at my project level. And these are some of the statistics that we've provided. And these are some of the things that we've added in the last release that are going to kind of help you in some of your statistical analysis and things like that. So I can see that I've got a number of not started, number of in progress. I am looking for remaining durations that are greater than my original, which we saw on that last screen. I've also got the number of completed activities, as well as the finish late and the actual duration greater than the baseline original duration. I also have the ability to compare my original duration to my baseline original duration. And so we've got some nice little statistical items that we have actually put in here. And I'm just going to pop that notebook up really quickly. So we have added some additional items in here. Now, you'll also notice that if I go back up to my project up here, I also have an additional report. Now, this is a report that we made specifically for a client. They wanted to analyze their calendars and find out. I'm just going to bring this open so that we can see it a little bit better. They wanted to find out if in their projects that their calendars were starting and ending within the calendar all on the same day or same time, as well as across all of their calendars, whether it was also defined properly. So you can see that the majority of them are going from um, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but we have this one that is not fitting in. Although it's consistent across the board in the calendar itself, it is not consistent across all of these calendars. So this was something specific a client asked us for, and we built into the tool for them. So we have the ability to actually do some tailor-made items if you have something that's maybe specific that you are not that is not already included in the tool itself. So the idea is that you can set up global layouts that everyone can use for whatever stage of the project they're in. You would make those global layouts, and those would become available to your users so that they can um, self-check as they go along in their schedules as they progress. So I'm going to hop back on over to my slides here. And we're going to talk a little bit more about doing some reporting and some trend analysis. Now, in conjunction with P6QA, you could do some things on reporting. Say, for instance, you wanted to monitor the improvement over time. This could be, per project. This might be for a project manager or a scheduler or something like that. And The way you could do that trending is you could use a snapshotting methodology. We do have a tool called EP Data Warehouse that will snapshot a project where it's at. It will maintain that information in a separate database so that you can then pull out that information in reports, either in maybe BI Publisher or P6 Analytics or whatever you have, and you can compare metrics and the changes as time goes by. This is just an example of what we would do with an EP data warehouse. A user can decide when they want to snapshot a project, when they want to capture that information. Um, they can decide what information they're going to actually capture. And it's going to go out and it's going to capture the information both at the project and the activity level. Then we can use that information with some views that can be pulled out, like in to BI Publisher, maybe Power BI. It could bring it into a Word report so that you could have some nice reports for management or whatever you wanted to use the reports for. So here's an example of one. This would be trending our schedule quality. We have a particular project that we've snapshotted through different periods, and we can see how each one of our metrics measured up as time went on with that particular project for schedule quality. I also have an example for one for a business process as it goes forward. So very easy to do some trending reports going hand in hand with some sort of data warehouse type of product. So let's kind of look at some benefits and ROI for P6QA. We have a benefit for our users, of course. They are going to streamline their learning. They're going to be able to take a look right within P6 to run the QA. They can self-correct as they go, and it's going to allow them to learn and their skills to improve as they go on without having to, rely on maybe an expert and waiting for that expert who's very busy to come and have them and help them to build that kind of learning. It's going to give your users a sense of accomplishment because it's going to give them that instant results. They're going to improve on how they are producing their schedules, and it's going to allow you to raise your standards as you go, and it's going to allow you to lessen your reliance on those expensive consultants who are that you bring in to analyze your schedule as you go because you don't have time to do it yourself. In the way of schedules, you're going to improve your quality of your schedules. You're going to be able to look at those checks. You're going to see, are they compliant? Are they not? In turn, that's going to improve your project portfolios so that your project portfolio can be consistent. So when you're pulling out that information and taking it to a corporate level and reporting on it, you have that consistency there so that you're looking at the same thing every time. Also, your speed is going to increase with that real-time feedback. You can also automate. Like I said, you can decide to run something regularly so that you're going to get some information automatically and get that proper or let's say not so proper check taken care of in a shorter amount of time. And as I went, we did have some quotes there from some of our users of this tool. We the ones that I really like that are the ones that tell us how much they have saved in the time that they had. I validated an 8,000 activity schedule in less than 2 hours. Even I knew it was not workable. If you had to go over that 8,000 schedule or activity schedule, you just would not, it would have taken much more than 2 hours to go line by line by line trying to figure it out without the aid of P6QA. So at this point, I am open to any types of questions that you may have. If you would please put them in the chat. If you have them, that would be great. Um, and I can try to get them answered for you. Any any questions about P6QA, how it runs, how we deploy it? Okay. Okay, I've got a few here. Looks like, how many activities are maximum? There actually is not a maximum number of activities uh, that can be checked. Um, you can have a schedule as large as you want. And it will go through and it will check all those activities throughout the schedule for the particular schedule quality that you want to actually check on that schedule. Um, so there's not a limit to how many activities can be checked. I'm getting some feedback that this is going to make someone's life much easier, and that's what we have found with the. We have one client who is actually had not they had engineers out in the field that are actually responsible for schedules as they're going. This is highway construction, and these they when they deployed P6QA, they chose their checks that they were going to do. They created those layouts for these engineers in the field, and now those engineers are actually managing their own schedules that they are actually working on. So they're getting um, immediate results once they've put their progress into those schedules as to how well they're doing, how well their project is going, and it's pointing out to them where they can adjust or where they need to look to make some adjustments to get their schedules back on track. So if there are any additional questions, I'm just going to finish up my slides here, but feel free to chat in any additional questions you may have. Um, Emerald is a company that can help you with more than just your schedule quality. We are essentially a one-stop shop for anything Primavera. We have over 25 years of experience working with Primavera, clear back from the early days of P3 and Expedition and Monte Carlo even, and up through, of course, today's P6 and Unifier. Crystal ball, all the new technology that we have now available through Primavera. We've worked with clients worldwide as well as domestically, and with a variety of different industries. We've run the gamut on that. Uh, we provide tools, so not P6QA is not our only tool that we have actually created to work in conjunction with Primavera. We also have some other really nice tools. EP Data Warehouse being one that I mentioned earlier, as well as a P6 loader, which pulls information in and out of P6. We also have services, so we help with implementation, automation, things like that. And we do provide training. Um, so you can take a look at all of that stuff on our website. And I apologize, this has the wrong email address on it. If I'm going to actually put it into the chat, I'm going to give you my email address and not Mary Lynn's. So if you would like to reach out to me personally, you are welcome, and I will put that. I just put my email address. Oh, and I didn't complete it. It's emeraldassociates.com. Boy, I can't spell. So let me try that again. Let me proofread before I hit the go button here. Okay. So Sue H at emeraldassociates.com. There it is. The second chat I just put in is my email address that you can get a hold of me. You can call us at any of those three numbers, depending on where you are located in the world. And you can see any type of information, see what kind of trainings we're offering, as well as other webinars that are coming up in December on our website. So, with that, if I don't have any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the webinar. I thank you very much for joining me tonight or this morning, depending on where you are, and hope you have a great rest of your evening or day, whatever the case may be. Thank you.